The UN's refugee agency warns Europe is on the brink of a humanitarian crisis largely of its own doing. Monday saw Macedonian police tear gas migrants and refugees who'd rammed through the closed border with Greece. They're now caught in a bottleneck, those refugees, between the 2,000 arriving each day via Turkey and the Aegean Sea, and the knock-on effect of Austria's decision to process no more than 80 asylum requests a day. The European Commission's critical of Macedonia, which is not an EU member, but there's plenty of blame to go around. Austria's reacted strongly to Germany's criticism of its unilateral decision to shut the door on all but a few, while all sides agree that failure to reach a deal to better share the burden at a couple of important summits coming up in Brussels could spark a rift that'll dwarf the euro crisis. As Angela Merkel calls for the restoration of the Schengen open borders agreement, is a common refugee policy among 28, plain and simply, mission impossible. Central to it all, of course, is Greece, groaning under the weight of new arrivals that, despite the dead of winter, continue to come at a pace of 2,000 a day. Athens accusing the likes of Hungary of being deliberately slow off the mark in processing those arriving. Will the future of the EU play out in Greece? Today in the France debate, we're looking at what looks like a shut-door policy for some in Europe. With us from Athens, our correspondent Natalie Savarakis, who's been following it all. We're also joined here in the studio by Gabriel Atanasov. He's the head of mission for the Macedonian embassy in Paris. Thank you for being with us. Marie Martin, asylum and migration asylum officer for Euromed Rights. Welcome back to the show.
Hello.
And welcome back as well from Brussels, Peter Kleppe, head of the office there of Open Europe. Thank you for being with us. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. More than 1/3 of the 24,000 stuck since last week in Greece are stranded in a Greek border town called Idomeni. The French news agency AFP spoke to a 30-year-old pharmacist from Aleppo who fled Syria's largest city after losing his wife and child in a bombing.
They play game, just it's dirty game for these people. We coming here from the war. I'm from Syria. Some people, they come from Iraq. They told us, come here, and they take luxury, and now we found a second war.
Let's first cross to Natalie Savarakis. Natalie, how did Tuesday go at the border with Macedonia?
Well, we didn't have the scenes of chaos or desperation that we saw yesterday, but I can tell you it's not looking good. I mean, the migrants and refugees woke up in mud and cold, wet tents. There's a massive shortage of food. There are long queues, of course, as the food handout continues. Like queues go for like 1.5 kilometers, according to many witnesses. Many of the children who were caught up in this quite violent exchange of tear gas being fired yesterday are today complaining of coughs. We're hearing medics saying that even there are like many cases of gastroenteritis. So it doesn't really look good. And currently, of course, as we've heard and we know, there's a constant influx of migrants and refugees from the islands, which neighbor Turkey. They're arriving to Piraeus, the port of Piraeus, the main port of Greece, which is close to Athens. And at the moment, as you mentioned, there's around 25,000 refugees and migrants on Greek soil, and it looks as the numbers are going to go up, and some are expected to even reach 70,000 for the month of March.
We've seen stops and starts in various places, borders get closed, reopen. How is what's going on now any different from what we've seen well since summer?
I mean, the numbers have absolutely soared, François. What we know for just the first 2 months of 2016, we have 120,565 people who have made it on Greek soil. I mean, it's an exponential rise. So the Greek authorities are completely, strangling here to try and cope with this. They're setting up makeshift tents or camps all around the country to try and cope with this arrival. NGOs completely mobilized, but also what's impressive is the solidarity of the Greek people. Volunteers have been sprouting from different places throughout the country to try and provide help, because 56% of the arrivals in Greece are actually women and children. So the overwhelming majority of these people are families. There's a lot of help that's needed, and one that the Greek authorities, of course, on the 6th year of this financial crisis, are impossible. They just can't provide it.
Let me turn to you, Gabriela Atanasov. We heard a European commissioner this Tuesday single out Macedonia for criticism, saying it was too heavy-handed, the use of tear gas on Monday. What's your response to that?
What we are trying to do now is, as an EU candidate, that we are supporting common, coordinated and comprehensive European approach in managing the migrant crisis. This means that we align with the European Council conclusions of February to rapidly stem the flow, protect borders, reduce illegal migration, and safeguard the integrity of Schengen area. This is our aim, to comply with these things.
And regarding this criticism about the tear gas?
Regarding this criticism, we probably you are very well aware that it's been a situation when that lasted like 1 hour, when a group damaged the entry point, stormed and pelted the Macedonian security forces with stones. So in a certain way, our security forces were obliged to protect themselves, and this is only in line with streamlining and to control the illegal migrations. It seems that we are talking about some 500 migrants who tried to enter in Macedonian border without registering. So the Macedonian police forces were obliged to use riot control means in order to disperse this mass of people.
Peter Kleppe, your reaction, and who do you blame for what those images we saw on Monday?
Well, of course, if you try to protect the border, you can expect this kind of actions. Not that I would, of course, I don't know the details, but not that I would condone any of the all the specific actions of the police. But I think the real game changer in this whole thing is that the attempts to close the Balkan routes are becoming successful. Now this will have far-reaching consequences for Greece, because of course what happened was that people relatively easily could make it from the Greek islands to Piraeus all the way to the north, to the Macedonian Greek border, and then continue their journey all the way to Germany. If this is over, there may be more pressure on the border with Bulgaria or the border with Albania, but in the end, basically, a lot of people will be stuck in Greece. Now, we can expect that perhaps because of this, less people are going to try to make the dangerous journey over the sea. But clearly for Greece, this is going to be a very big problem. And I would predict that as a result of that, Greece will increase its efforts to try to stop the boats, those little dangerous boats from people, with people trying to make it from Turkey to a Greek island with the help of the Turkish mafia.
Do you agree with it, Martin?
I agree with the diagnosis that the route is being diverted and that people are prevented from migrating on the road they want to take. And we oppose this in the sense that we would like to see people go wherever they want to go. And we know that most of the people we see on these images are actually people fleeing persecution, which doesn't mean violence can be exerted against them or migrants. But we have to come to violence. I disagree with the fact that the use of force, be it for the use by riot police of tear gas because people try to get in an irregular way. I disagree that this should be discarded as being a pure fact, which is part of the decorum. This is extremely disturbing. The images we see are actually exactly the same as the one we saw in Calais, which means we see points, clusters where people are blocked all throughout the European Union, but also beyond. We see it exactly the same in Ceuta Melilla, at the Algerian-Morocco border as well. This use of violence, what is the result of this?
But Mr. Atanasov is saying that they're simply responding to refugees and migrants who were pelting them with projectiles.
We could also say that refugees and migrants are simply reacting to the violence that exerted against them, be it direct violence by the police force or the violence of the whole context, where you hear people telling you, we were told we could come because we're refugees and we are not. So this is violence exerted against them, and these people are fighting for their rights. So I don't see any problem with people defending their rights. Of course, violence by any means should be condemned, but we see that there's a large disequilibrium here and a large discrepancy between the means in the hands of people, men, women and children, and the means of the state. So this should be used in a proportionate way, and this is absolutely, well, this to be condemned, and this is disproportionate. The use of tear gas should not be used, in our view.
Peter Kleppe, do you agree?
Well, look, I think we need to accept that the chaos just cannot continue. I think it's really dangerous to try to lure people to risk their lives, to try to use illegal means to make it over. I think there's a growing consensus in Europe that some greater solution for this is needed. Many people have proposed to try to provide a solution in the region. So far this hasn't materialized, also given the enormous number of refugees already present in Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan. I don't think there's any easy fix. But what we already can conclude now, after basically 1 year of chaos, is that the modest solutions have failed. And probably, first of all, I would say the chaos needs to stop. We just cannot accept that people keep on risking their lives, that another 5,000 people die at sea between Turkey and Greece. This has to stop. This is step number one. Step number two is you probably need to provide some kind of a safe area somewhere where big masses of refugees can head to. I've personally written a comment how Western countries could develop somewhere a city like Hong Kong, which very much was a safe haven for refugees from Maoist China, which was governed by British bureaucrats. Now, I don't think this is the only possible comprehensive solution for this gigantic problem, but I think people need to start thinking outside of the box. And we definitely should not encourage people to risk their lives and to continue with all kinds of illegal ways to try to make it to Northern Europe.
Natalie Savarakis, what's the reaction in Greece when they hear people saying, look, the Balkan route has to be shut down and that's the way it is?
I think the reaction from Greece is essentially Europe is at a complete loss. And unless there is a comprehensive solution that comes from the nucleus of Europe and actually applied on in each and every country, instead of this ad hoc decision to accept the number of refugees they want, which are also subject to the criteria they want, that is that they should be Christians instead of Muslims, that should be families instead of men, that every country in itself should actually accept this redistribution process of refugees across the bloc instead of, again, I will repeat, ad hoc, then there is no solution to the problem, because the migratory flows will continue as long as there are wars. And we know that these wars, despite any truces that might have been achieved, will continue. And I think that is very much the position of Greece, that the redistribution needs to start, and ideally it should start from Turkey to avoid all these very dangerous journeys in the Aegean, because if the relocation can start straight from journey, then we'll have a massive drop of people taking this route, and you will be able to identify them better at the border instead of various little islands with these makeshift camps and this all chaotic scenes that we've been seeing in the past few days unfold before our eyes.
Well, next week, there's going to be Turkish leaders sitting down with EU leaders in Brussels. What would you like to see, Gabriel Atanasov, come out of that meeting with Turkish leaders?
From that meeting, we are expecting as a country that everyone try to do its best to reduce humanitarian and security risks. Having in mind that we are, as country, the first entry state on the Western Balkans and the route bordering with Schengen, we have been obliged to follow actions introduced by particular states, northern from Macedonia, on the route, and also that's why we have implemented measures agreed in concert with affected countries. So we are expecting that, of course, EU is giving a clear signal by helping countries on the route, by sending some financial means, because all of our countries need that financial means, and that's very important because no one can act.
And
himself.
how do you handle Turkey? Because remember there was a summit back in November. There were commitments made. A lot of critics saying that those commitments haven't been respected.
According to my information, Turkey is helping a lot in this migrant crisis. They are spending a lot of money for the refugees, like according to my last information, like 1.4% of the internal product, brutto internal product. So it's a lot of money. All of these countries need financial support from the EU.
Mary Martin, you agree?
Partly. I would partly agree. We know that the situation in Turkey is, human rights-wise, extremely serious at the moment, be it for Turkish nationals, be it for refugees themselves. And we also know that the situation is not to push people like hot potatoes even further and further away. I really agree with the fact that we need to implement the relocation system and the resettlement mechanisms which were agreed. And I agree that we need to let people come by legal means, because otherwise they will take very dangerous routes. We cannot disagree with the diagnosis, which is too many people die at sea, too many people die at the border. Yet again, I would really stress that the reason for this and why this is happening is because the routes are closed, because people are still imposed visas. Let me remind you that 12 member states of the European Union imposed transit visas for refugees from Syria when they want to take a flight onto some 12 European members of the European Union, sorry. So this is also a reality to take into account. People take irregular means to come into the European Union because they have no other choice. And the choice is actually in the hands of EU leaders. The second thing is we're part of this, we're back to country politics. And this can no longer remain the case. I mean, the relocation system is 200 people have been relocated as of December 2015 out of 160,000 people agreed by EU member states. The number of resettlement, i.e. from non-EU countries, of refugees has reached 2,000. 2,000 out of the 22,000, which is already very scarce, agreed on by EU member states. We are thinking outside of the box. I very much agree that we need to have alternatives to the current system, but we do have the tools in the box right now. Why don't we use the tools in our hands in the box? We need to share. We need to be up to the challenge. We need to do more. And this is a challenge for everybody. We can't just shift it onto small countries like Macedonia. We can't, 1.5 million euros spent and given to Serbia last year, 3 billion euros given to Turkey, with the consequences we know, because no one knows how much of this money would be diverted. We have no mechanism to follow up really where this money is going to go. Is it going to benefit refugees? We don't know about all this. All we know as a European Union is how to act collectively to push these people away. We cannot agree on collectively hosting these people. This is extremely serious. We do have the tools in our box. I'm sure of this.
All right, we're going to pick up on these points when we come back. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.